Real quick, as we pivot to Peter King coming up in 30 minutes.
Brock Purdy's MVP. What'd you want to say?
I want to bolster your discussion.
Thank you.
And I'm not arguing against it, just for the record. I'm just saying that I do believe some voters aren't ready to embrace that and cast their ballot in that direction. But Peter writes in his Football Morning in America, when Brett Favre won 3 straight, his average yards per attempt were 7.7, 7.2, and 7.5. Brock Purdy this year is at 9.3 with an accuracy of 72%. So, yeah, no one thinks that Brock Purdy has a great arm and Brett Favre is this gunslinger who can throw it all over the park. Wow. And yet Brock Purdy's average yards per attempt, YPA, not even YPC, although when he makes an attempt, it tends to be caught. When you're 72%, it's going to help the old YPA when every pass you throw is caught. But he's at 9.3, Mark, which is well above Brett Favre in his 3 straight MVPs.
By the way, though, that's not first place in the league. 9.3.
His YPA?
Is second.
Is it Tua?
Yep, 9.7.
It's because my guy, Tyreek Hill, who you're going to have to face this week.
He's fast.
He's a big catch and run guy.
I have him in 2 other leagues, and I always have a rule when that happens where you've got him and you're going against him. Just root for him.
Okay.
And so I'm rooting for Tyreek.
Deal with the fallout.
Deal with the fallout.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my guys has to go off, too.
I like it.
That's it. We're not going to root against Tyreek Hill.
You're hard to root against.
Thank you.
I'll be honest.
Anyway.
Good guy.
But that's a little bit of a different league back then. Just a little bit. I know Brett Favre is not, that's like not going, it's not Fran Tarkington, but you know, like, it was a little bit less even then of a passing crazy league than maybe it is now. But your point is well taken. Your point is obviously well taken. For me, where this needs to go, I don't know if we're there yet. We're getting there. Sunday Night Football helped like hell. Here's where we need to go. It is true always in life when someone is succeeding that good things are happening around them too. But never before have we robbed people, successful people, of credit when that's true. I bet you all know people who make a lot of money. What do we call them? He's a
successful
businessman.
Right.
Now, did he have a rich daddy? Yeah, probably.
Could be.
Probably. Like, was he set up for this success? You know what I mean? Did he really just have to go to college that mom and dad paid for after growing up on a cul-de-sac and walk in and put a 2-foot putt into the hole? And now he's a successful businessman. But nobody goes to that person and is like, look, okay, I know this is great that you're having us over for this dinner and you have a chef in the other room. That's really nice. But honestly, truly,
you're a system rich guy.
You didn't do any of this.
Stephen Jones.
You didn't do this.
You won the lottery by being born.
There you go. Thank you, Eddie Vedder. Appreciate you.
You're a system millionaire.
Yeah. And by the way, most are. Most are.
I'd say 99% of them are.
Most of them are.
Yep.
And so, look, that's kind of life. But as we flash it over to sports, yeah, Draymond's been a great example of this for years. Would he be a Hall of Famer if Steph wasn't next to him? I don't know, and I don't care. Because he gets the dang credit for doing the things that he is doing. And we all have enough eyes to know what he is doing. And so, Brock, same thing here. This is the NFL. There's never been a quarterback who's just like, so here's the deal. I'm going to only throw touchdowns, and we're only going to win. And people are like, okay, that's fine. But you don't get the credit for that. Even if you got all kinds of great stuff around you. And so I just think that that's kind of true across the board. If you're doing great things, you get the credit.
Yeah.
And you can also acknowledge there's also credit to go around you too.
Sure.
That's easy. That's easy. We don't need, it's not that there's not like this finite number of credit and we're going to run out of it.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Plenty to go around.
And you look at like Kevon Looney, and we think a certain way about Kevon Looney because we've gotten to know Kevon, but also because they've won 4 titles and he's won 3 of them. So if he wasn't a part of 3 championship teams, if the Warriors had been like the Niners, well, man, you've been close. So like you've made it to the Super Bowl a couple times, but you haven't gotten over the hump, and you just haven't gotten there, Warriors. And, you've got Steph Curry, and you've got Clay and Draymond, and, Kevon is a likable guy, but you haven't won it. We would think differently about Kevon Looney, for example, based on the fact that he hadn't become a champion. And so, when you give out credit, you give out credit in certain ways. Like the Giants is a great example. Cody Ross and Pat the Bat. Forget like the stars like Lincecum and Kane. And, they, I think, would be revered as forever Giants in different ways. But like the role player, bit player guys, we think about them in different ways because they're champions.
Well, although this is an interesting comp you're making because those are all smaller rolled people. And
right,
so there's nothing against that. But I think that this needs to be entered into the conversation as well. Like even listening to Steiny and Goose spar about it a little bit, where Steiny's point was kind of like, there's sort of a so what kind of a vibe to Steiny on this topic. He's like, great, right? So some people are taking credit from him. So what? Dan Orlovsky thinks that Mac Jones would be good on the 49ers. So what? Well, part of it is he's the quarterback. That's different. That's just a flat-out different conversation.
Yeah. It's more different than any position in any sport.
Correct.
In anything.
This is the dang quarterback of the 49ers.
Right.
And so it's not even just a quarterback. It's a quarterback of the 49ers. This is an historic position. And so when you're talking about that guy, I think people are more hesitant to heap praise or give credit. It's easy to go, gosh, Kevon Looney's got jumper cables, and he's a dirty work guy, and so we love that because no one's trying to put Kevon Looney on this like pedestal at the top of the league. That's what people are really battling against. We've moved past anybody going, is Brock good? Well, yes, he's good. Now I think that the conversation, and this is where it's tough for people, it's like, dude, are you giving him a platform? If this were the Olympics and we're handing out 3 medals, does he get one? And quite frankly, right now, the answer is yeah, he would. That's hard for some people. That's hard for some people to put because that's rare air.
Yes, and Peter King even made reference in his great column, and we'll talk to him in 25 minutes. He made reference to The Ringer. He doesn't name the writer who mentioned that he's the 25th ranked quarterback, but he does mention 25th ranked quarterback in his piece. So we can get Peter's thoughts on not only that individual piece, but quarterback rankings in general and what's happened to our business to where everything must be codified after every week. And I think we are beyond the is Brock good and is Brock not good. Sunday night is the absolute silencer. It is the Undertaker. It's rest in peace. 4 touchdowns, and you beat America's team 42-10 to remain undefeated. You've never lost a game in the regular season that you started. And, and the whole thing about, and I heard somebody earlier today, his record when he starts and finishes, and I bristle a little bit because he didn't actually finish that game. And so I'm trying to get beyond my own semantics and my own nuance, but we do know this. He has not lost a game in the regular season.
I was thinking about this on the way here, and maybe you and I can come to this agreement for how we talk about it. Because I know there's the semantics, and then there's the rule, and then there's
you like 12-0, and I 13-1, and whatever it is.
I look at it this way.
It pissed me off.
Well, you know how a pitcher in baseball kind of like in order to get the win or the loss, not so much the loss. The loss is just who gave up the run that gave him the lead for the end. But in order to get the win, you kind of like as a starter, you got to be the guy.
Yeah.
You got to cover.
You go 5 innings.
You got to cover the majority of the game.
Agreed.
And you have to be sort of the main pitcher who was out there. Well, what if we just looked at Brock that way? Why don't we just talk about games where he was the guy? You played 3 or more quarters.
I would love to, yeah.
And you were the main quarterback of the football game. Some will say that's not fair because obviously that's removing Philadelphia and it's adding Miami last year. But I think it's fair.
Well,
that's when he played the majority of the game.
I would like to do it the way they do with pitchers. So, yes, he gets Miami because when he got the ball, when we're going to go to Brock here, It's not bad, actually. I feel good about that.
Now that he's fired,
I'm starting to
your
dial in on my
impersonations
cap.
come together.
This is so typical.
You should do one of George Seifert next.
I do a great Frank Yallop of the Earthquakes, but
Blame
he's
it
been
on the
gone for 15 years.
Besanova. Anyway, go
so he gets Miami because when he got the ball, they were trailing, and then he took them back, right? They were down to Miami.
And it was the majority of the game.
But unfortunately, against Philadelphia, when he was out there, they were losing, so he takes the L because he was the starting pitcher. He gave up 7 runs in that game.
Not really.
And he took the L.
He didn't do anything. He didn't give up the 7 points. He wasn't on the field. He went on the field, completed 4 passes, and left.
But they were down when he left.
Yeah.
So in baseball parlance, he would take that L.
Right.
So, so there you go.
Let's go to the doc.
Let's do it.
Martinez. We're going to go to the doc later in the show. This is just the doc. Hey, Doc, what's up?
Hey, thanks. What's up, Willard and Dibs? Appreciate you putting me on. I want to just bring this down to somebody who saw the game live on Sunday and then ask your expert opinion on quarterbacks, Willard, and maybe you can shoot this to Peter King, too. I agree, Dibs. We're no longer in a space of talking about whether Brock Purdy is good or not. The question should be, is Brock Purdy elite? And here's the question I want to ask you guys. There was a sequence when the Niners put the game away where Brock Purdy fit the ball into windows that maybe 5 other QBs in the league can fit it into, first to Ayuk and then to Debo. And watching it live, I had all questions in my mind erased about whether this guy is the guy or is he good or is he elite. I wanted to know what you guys thought about that.
Thanks, the doc. Appreciate it. I am done hesitating on that word. I used that word in my almost post-game video. I actually shot that video before the game was even over on Sunday night because
it was bold.
Yeah, it was such an Ottoman game. As soon as they went in for 42, I'm like, let's just shoot the video and go to bed.
Yep.
This thing's in the can. But I used that word. I said, why are we so afraid to use the word elite when it comes to Brock Purdy? There is zero question in my mind that this is an elite quarterback in the NFL. It's because of also what I value, though, in the league. I don't need you to be 6'5". I don't need you to be able to throw a ball 70 yards from your knees, Jamarcus. I don't need any of that stuff. What I consider elite in the NFL is decision-making, timing, accuracy, moving the ball down the field, getting first downs, and winning football games and preventing turnovers. That's what quarterbacking has always been. I'm not looking for style points. Patrick Mahomes has them. Brock has less, although I'd argue he's got more than he gets credit for. Moves around pretty well out there. Ad-libs just fine. Made absolutely elite NFL throws against the top-rated defense in the league this week. Yes, Brock Purdy, elite, no hesitation.
I wonder if other teams will try to emulate what Dallas was able to do on a couple of occasions, and that is rush without completely rushing and get your hands up. Because little Brock
knocked the ball down
twice.
Yep.
Early in that game, he had 2 passes get knocked down, and it's because same guy knocked him down. They rush, and then you stop your rush, and you put your hands up, and when you have a quarterback who's only 6'1", and he's not really able to throw over you on a defensive line, that might be a way. I mean, you're grasping at straws right now if you're trying to stop this guy.
To Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, it can work.
Sure, I'm not saying that's the elixir for what Brock Purdy is doing, but that was a way that they were able to stop him temporarily.